What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Agent Carter Season 2, Episodes 8 and 9, The Edge of Mystery and A Little Song and Dance. Once again, another 2-hour-long episode, technically 2 episodes, and if you hear stuff outside, it's because it's storming right now, so you hear stuff, that's why. A two episode event, and really setting up well for the end. I don't really know what's gonna happen. I really don't. Like, there's so much going on that it could go either way. The first episode was a lot of build up, kind of, for the action packed second episode of the two. You've got all the pieces coming together. Jarvis and Peggy are going after Whitney. Sousa's helping. Jack has kind of realized that something's wrong, and so now he's helping out a little bit, kind of what I was expecting. Still think he's going to die in the last episode because he sacrifices himself. But, everybody's kind of working together to go after Whitney Frost. And she's got, all this stuff going on. She wants the uranium. She wants the uranium back to set up the explosion that caused the rift in the first place. So she wants everything. The whole thing needs to be the exact same. So she wants those uranium bars to set off the bomb. And so that's the first part, is Peggy working out a trade with Whitney to get Jason back, and fake giving her the uranium. She finds out it's fake, but Jason then turns against her because apparently he agrees with Whitney. Like, I couldn't really tell exactly what was happening there. Like, it seemed like he was agreeing with her. Like, he wanted to follow through with what she was talking about. It's kind of out of nowhere, though, which, made for a surprising twist, but they didn't really explain the twist all too well. Just that he wanted the uranium so he could, do what Whitney wants to do. And then, from there they cause the rift. Jarvis stupidly goes after Whitney Frost to avenge Anna being shot. Peggy goes after him, and Wilkes gets sucked into the rift, comes back after they, Sousa, Jack, and the doctor, that nobody knows who he is, they close the rift. Wilkes is back, but something's up. Like, there's something going on inside of him. Jarvis manages to shoot Whitney, but obviously because she's got this zero matter inside of her, it doesn't really affect her. But, shoots her, she absorbs it, they take Peggy and Jarvis, and that's pretty much the end of the first episode. Leading into the second episode, where everything happens, Jack sets up this whole plan. Like, the entire thing seems like it was set up by Thompson. He, working it all out to where Vernon and Whitney are going to blow up with the gamma ray thing. Like, he had the doctor modify it to make it blow up. So it's all going on, his whole plan is set into place. Peggy and Sousa are, working together after Peggy gets her and Jarvis out of the situation. They start working together to try to stop Jack's plan so she can save Wilkes. Meanwhile, Jarvis is trying to take care of Anna. And then, it all ends on kind of a anticlimactic type ending. But that's because I think a lot of the action in this one was building up to a huge climax in the next episode. So it's like, first episode built it up, second one stuff happened, but it still didn't end, because the last episode next week is going to be where it all just blows up and everything goes on. So I'm really excited for next week, and that's pretty much what this episode was, or this 2-hour episode was here to do, is to get you excited for the finale. And I'm excited. It did its job very well. Couple things I wanted to talk about, just specifically, because there are a few really, really good scenes in these 2 episodes. In the first one, there was only one, and so it kind of it wasn't a bad episode. It was definitely a good episode, but it just wasn't as good as the second one because the second one had several memorable scenes, whereas the first one, I only really remember one scene in particular that really stood out, and that was the scene where you got Peggy and Sousa, and this is after what happened with Jason in the truck. All that happened, he pulled the gun on Peggy, threatened to kill her if Sousa didn't tell him where the uranium was being kept. And so they go back to the office. Jack's been knocked out by Vernon Masters after he tried to stop him using the little amnesia thing. And so they have a little argument. And the only reason this stood out is because it feels like they're trying to put Peggy and Sousa back together again, like they did in the first season. And this one kind of it's a scene that just kind of stuck with me because they're doing that again. It's not terrible. I really did prefer them together in the first season, so I hate the fact that they weren't at the beginning of this season. But anyway, it's the scene where they're talking about, I can't believe, you said we have to be, not unemotional. We have to shield our emotions. What was that in the truck then? Like calling him out after he told her not to let her emotions cloud her judgment when it comes to Wilkes. But he clearly just let his emotion cloud his judgment when he told Wilkes about the uranium. So it is kind of an interesting question, and it really does seem like they're setting them up because clearly Sousa still cares a lot for Peggy and doesn't want her to die and is willing to possibly end the world to keep her from dying. So, it was a very interesting little scene, but second episode is where all the memorable scenes were at. First of all, it starts off, and at first I was like, what is this? Because you can tell she's having sort of like one of those little dream things when she got knocked out in the end of the first episode. So you can tell she's having like a little dream thing that most people have when they get knocked out. And it's one of those dreams that feels realistic, but she knows it's not because she was just somewhere else. But it starts off like she's in black and white, and she knows it's black and white, and she's talking to her brother, and she has like an emotional little scene with him, and the next thing you know, she's walking through this like set. Like she walks through a door, and there's no wall, because it looks like she's on an actual like TV set. And then she goes and sits down at a bar, and then, Wilkes is right there next to her. And then she starts dancing with him, and they're playing like this, kind of soft music. And all of a sudden, Sousa pops up. And then all of a sudden, like, they break into a little dance number, singing about who's she gonna choose, she gonna choose Sousa or Wilkes. It was so bizarre, and yet it clearly kind of captured the emotion of what she was going through. Like, she has two men that are both vying for her affection, and both of them are perfect gentlemen, like men that she would not mind being with either way. And we hardly got to see her going through that at all. Like, at one point she had talked with Jarvis, I think, about who she was going to choose. And that was it. Like, she talked about it one little time, and then they open up with this musical number going on in her mind about choosing between the two men. And the only thing that would have made it better if they had more money for this show to pay Chris Evans to be there would be if Captain America had popped up and started singing along, because he was the original guy that she had trouble getting over at first. But like I said, they don't have enough money to get Chris Evans on, but somehow Haley Atwell is still, I guess a lot of their money goes to her because she's been in a lot of the Marvel movies. At least, Captain America, and then old in the second Captain America, and then not as old in Ant-Man. Anyway. But yeah, it was a very interesting scene to open. It was funny. It was fun. And it really did capture kind of her dilemma at the moment in a funny way. It didn't take up too much time. At one point when they were getting into like the biggest part of the dance number where everybody's dancing and singing, I was like, okay, this is dragging on a little too much, but then it ended quickly after that, so I was like, okay. And what a perfect way to end it. You got Jarvis saying, "Wake up," and then Rose says, "I'm sorry, you didn't make it to the whatever agency." Bam! It was funny. Um, but anyway, that was the first scene that really stood out. Second scene is after Peggy frees her and Jarvis from the back of the truck, and they're walking in the middle of the desert. They have a really emotional moment where Jarvis, like at the beginning of the first episode, it showed like Jarvis and Anna talking in the first season when Peggy was dealing with the reactor or whatever thing. Jarvis was talking on the phone, telling her how to handle it, and Anna was listening in, and then they have like a little conversation, and Jarvis says, "Oh, I don't believe she'll be too much of an influence in our lives," and then it shows Anna, on the bed, and it kind of implied, if it weren't for Peggy's involvement in their lives, she wouldn't be here. But it didn't go that way in the first episode. I'm like, are they not going to talk about it? And then in the second episode, he finally does kind of blame her for it, saying, if it weren't for you, she wouldn't be shot right now. And then Peggy kind of lays into him saying, look, you follow me along on all of these adventures, as you like to call them, because you just think it's all fun and games, but you don't know how to deal with real loss, At the end of the day, you don't know what real loss is. And then he finally tells her, Anna won't be able to have children. And, there's no way you could have known because I haven't told anybody. I haven't even told her. And she doesn't realize what a coward of a husband she had. It was a really emotional moment between the two of them. Because, honestly, in the first season, they'd never really talked about how they just kind of started working together and didn't really ever have a moment like this one, where they really talked about it. Talked about what they're doing together, the stuff they're doing, how it affects him, how it affects her. They never had one of those moments because it was too busy telling the story and, talking about the stuff going, a lot of it was about Peggy hiding the fact that she was doing all this stuff. Like, nobody knew she was secretly going after these organizations. Like, she was just Peggy Carter. She answers the phones. No, she does not. She's secretly a spy. So that the focus was not on Peggy and Jarvis and, their relationship, the friendship they were building. It happened, but it never really was talked about. This is the first time I've really seen them talk about it and really talk about the emotions that are involved. It was a very emotional moment. And just, quickly about Anna and all that stuff, I was kind of surprised about that. I forgot to talk about it, but I was kind of surprised that because honestly, whenever, I knew she wasn't going to die. I don't know how I knew, but some part of me is just like, no, you're not going to kill her off. Don't even try to pretend. But then whenever, she woke up and they got her out of the surgery okay, and, doctors are checking her over, and Jarvis is making the call saying, she's okay. I'm just like, okay, I've seen this before. Doctor's going to come out and say there's been complication. She's paralyzed from the waist down. I've seen it before. It's going to happen. Watch. I think my brother was actually watching at the time, like, not watching, but he was in the room. And I was just like, watch. She's going to be paralyzed. It's going to happen. And then the doctors come out and say, the surgery was very complicated and not everything went according to plan. I'm like, she's paralyzed. She won't be able to have children. I'm like, oh wow. I don't know if that's worse or better. Like on the one hand, well, she'll still be able to walk. She'll still be normal. On the other hand, there goes any chance of having a family. I feel like emotionally it's a lot worse to not be able to have children than it is to be paralyzed. Paralyzation, it's a physical thing. Nothing really changes about your future with that person other than the fact that they're going to be in a wheelchair. But losing the ability to have kids is like any hope of having a family with this person in the future is now gone. That's when I heard that I was like, wow, you went that route. I was not expecting that in Agent Carter. This show is not exactly the darkest show. This isn't Man of Steel or something like that. This is Marvel. Marvel's generally pretty cheery. They don't go this dark on the most of the time. So that was pretty depressing. And it sucks for Jarvis, and I hate it for him. So, anyway, little side note. But the third, really, the moment that stood out in the second episode was I lost it. Hang on. I just said it was a memorable moment and unforgettable, and now I'm forgetting it. I had it in my head. I lost it. Oh! The ending, of course. I was like, hang on, was there something in between the ending? No, the ending, how it ended. It seemed kind of like something's about to go seriously wrong. Like, first you got Frost and Masters and Thompson all in the room, and Thompson, is secretly betraying both of them by setting up the thing to explode. You've got Peggy rescuing Wilkes. You've got Sousa outside getting the doctor to stop the bomb, which he finally does, just in the nick of time as Jack's walking outside. But once, Peggy rescues Wilkes, who then shuts her out and says, I'm sorry, I can't, I finally accepted what I have to do. You've got Frost, who is about to kill Masters, who then sees the device turn on and says, "Ha, he got you too, bitch." I'm just like, he did. You've got Jack going outside, doing the trigger. It doesn't work. So then he goes and finds Sousa and the doctor. Peggy comes out to meet him, and Jack pulls a gun on the doctor. I'm just like, holy crap. He wouldn't actually shoot him. He looks like he's about to shoot him. He's got the gun. He puts the hammer down. I'm just like, holy crap, Jack's serious about this. Doctor turns it on. Peggy pulls a gun on Jack. I'm like, oh my god. Like, this is all going horribly wrong. Like, first Jack pulling a gun, now Peggy's pulling. Somebody's going to get shot. I don't know who it is, but somebody's going. And then Wilkes walks into the room as Frost is like, sees the device has turned on. A walks into the room and then explodes with the zero matter. And that's how it ends. I was kind of like, that was too much. It was all the intensity building up. You can just feel it. It's almost like the zero matter inside of Wilkes was building up and exploded. That's a horrible joke to make, but I made it. I'm sorry. But yeah, it was just a very intense scene. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. Like I said, in the next episode, you've got, it looks like Whitney Frost survives. Maybe she absorbs all the zero matter out of Wilkes, which would be absolutely crazy. I can't imagine she would survive for long. But it looks like you've got, all of this stuff that's going to happen in the next episode. It's all going to end epically. I still think Jack's going to die. I don't know how, but I still think he's going to die, sacrificing himself for the good of the team. But, I mean, it's done so well, this show, and really keeping me guessing. Like, I still don't know what the purpose of this was. It felt like the purpose of the first season was to kind of show what was going on with Peggy Carter back in the day. But we got to see kind of a bit, not a whole lot of Hydra. I don't think it was, I can't remember the name of the group they were fighting against, but it was a Hydra-like organization. And you could kind of, you could see kind of what they were building up to as far as what's going on in the present. You could kind of see some of the stuff that they were showing in the past that may relate to what's going on in the present. So I wonder how much the end of this season is going to tie into what's going on right now in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., with all the Inhumans, with what's going on with the thing that took over Ward. Just all this stuff going on. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. And I'm really excited to see. Because they've set up so perfectly for this last episode that I can't wait for next week. I want it to be now. I want it to be Tuesday already, and it's Wednesday at this point, but I want it to be Tuesday next week. So anyway, it was a really good episode. Good 2 episodes. First one did well building up. Second one did a good job of giving action while still building up for the climax of the final episode. It was all around just really good, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do next. So let me know what you think in the comments below. What do you think is going to happen in the season finale? What do you think they've been building up to? And what has been your favorite moment so far in this season? Leave a like and subscribe for more Agent Carter content, and I'll see you at the next review. Peace out.